What's going on, folks? It's D White, founder of JustBlackThoughts.com. What you're watching right now is me prepping for my middle school class. So I'm setting up my board. Now, this isn't my main classroom. This is my summer school classroom, as in, essentially, I'm borrowing a classroom from one of my Spanish teachers, colleagues who teaches Spanish. So you'll see some words. Of course, I'm not teaching Spanish, but I know a little bit of Spanish. Yo soy de Tejas. Um, Now, for this class, it's called Words Win. The way I approach this vocab class, so every week we have a theme where I give them vocab around a theme. What you're seeing right now, our theme this week, we're in our midweek or third week of 5. We're doing personal finance. So my students have been doing a budget. We're doing everything from take-home pay calculators online to going to Redfin, Zillow, to look at houses. Because I also want my kids to see how expensive it is to live in the San Francisco Bay Area and for them to really feel how the money could be really tight. I think it's a good hypothetical exercise thought process for them to kind of think through how they're going to make ends meet, right? Especially since my students are 12, 13, 14. So we have Redfin, Zillow. Also, I have them budget for paying back student loans. So I tell them to look up their schools that they're interested in, even if they're not interested in going to a particular school, but what is the average cost of college? And I try to really, I don't want to say stress, but I try to inform that there is nothing wrong in going to a local school. A community college will do because it's cost effective and they're in California. Some of the best schools in the country are in California. The UC system is pretty stacked in terms of just really good schools. UCLA, UC Berkeley. Now, these schools are competitive, so I have my students budget for their tuition. We do a little bit of math. And so you're probably wondering, well, isn't this a vocab class? Well, I'm trying to teach them words that go with personal finance. Tuition, loan, scholarship, grant, debt, mortgage, pension. So you're seeing me put up the vocab on the board because my students, when they come in, they'll be on iPads. And so I have my students, doing some online research. They've got their budget sheets. It's just a spreadsheet, And it's interesting, the boys, this is just the things I'm noticing. The boys are all going to be star one of one, the next LeBron James, the next Messi. And I am not here to bust the kids' bubble, but I want to put things in perspective and say, what's your plan B? What happens if you get injured? What if you don't get that next big contract? And just helping them think through it, right? The point of this exercise is just to plant the seed of how important it is to be good with your money and to be mindful of what you're spending your money on. Not just with the hopes of having this really large salary or this really large nest egg, but just really being mindful and thinking about the way we use money, the way we think about money, and how money is a tool that we can use to make for a fulfilling life and maximizing, the things we want to do in life. This all comes from the tail end of me finishing the book Die with Zero. So it's been cool to kind of bring in some of that personal finance journey that I'm having into the classroom. So the students, they calculate their take-home pay by using the calculators online. They go to Redfin and look up mortgages and property taxes. And yes, these are terms I'm teaching them. They look up college costs and future education costs, that including grad school, because some of them want to be lawyers and doctors and anesthesiologists. And I say, hey, it's great. You got to be in school a little bit longer, and you got to calculate how much it'll cost for graduate school. Side note, you're going to see me talk to the screen or talk. It looks like I'm talking off screen. I'm on a call. I haven't told you all this, but I'm a Fulbright fellow or a Fulbright teacher. So I'm going to Ghana in Africa to just observe teaching practices. I'll drop another video on that journey, and you'll see me go to Ghana, and you'll see my experience with those students. So excuse me if you see me kind of look off screen. So yeah, I'm putting up car payments because I want them to calculate cars, if they could pay their car off in 10 years, and they start to look at their dream cars and whatnot. And they start to think, well, wait, if I'm spending all this money on my house and I can't get my dream car, and vice versa. So one of the vocab words is opportunity cost. And I want them to understand that, you can't have everything, right? But you can have most things with careful planning and thoughtful strategic planning. And then lastly, this is over the course of 5 days. We have vocab every week. So hopefully this is a Thursday. So hopefully Thursday, Friday, the last 2 days of the week, we get to retirement planning. And of course, some of these numbers are a little bit fabricated or large, it's because I want them to see how the money could work, right? So if you see me put 30 years, you're gonna need 30-year retirement. That's just a ballpark. The goal is not for them to walk away with a full financial plan, but I want them to see the different elements and the different items, the budget items, the different expenses, and seeing how far a dollar really can stretch and how far a dollar can stretch, especially in the San Francisco Bay Area. Most of my kids live in the Bay, obviously, but they live in San Francisco specifically, one of the most expensive cities in the country. Why this video? As I tell my kids, so what? So why am I recording this video? Well, I'm just giving you a little insight into my classroom. This is a come plan with me, come prep with me session, just how I approach teaching and learning in my classroom. Things that go through my mind as I'm lesson planning as far as units go, as well as the day-to-day, what's happening in the classroom. I think about how am I getting the kids engaged in collaboration and communication, right? I don't like to be the sage on stage. I try to hold myself to a 5-minute time limit max on being on stage. So that includes welcoming them, giving the big focus for the day, going over the agenda. I try to do that in 5 to 7 minutes max. I'll even tell kids to be my timekeeper because I want to keep the class moving and it needs to be a certain rhythm. And, for the most part, middle school kids are they're ready. They're ready to go, right? They want to get hands-on, and so I try to get their hands on and get them active as soon as I can. Now, does that come with some stopping and redirecting and workshopping? Yeah, I'll pause them every 5, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes max, and we'll check in. I'll show them something, and I'll say, all right, go back in and try this. As far as this class go, my students they're building a budget. So I want to make sure that they are going through line by line, but also having someone near, whether that's myself, my TA, or a student who's further along, or a student, so they can kind of communicate and collaborate and troubleshoot, right? Because some of the girls are saying we should be roommates. Okay, well, how do we do the roommate thing? Do we split the cost? And for me, as I'm roaming around, because one of my favorite things to do is to set them off, let them get started, let them start talking, be in discussion in small groups. I love just listening to the conversation and checking in and pulling up a seat and just talking with them and dropping some comments, questions, and then picking their brains, because that lets me see what they're picking up, what they're learning, or what their prior knowledge levels are on a particular topic. Also, you're seeing me move chairs around. The chairs are really chairs. That's another element of my classroom, having different floor plans and chair configuration. Now, I haven't done a seating chart in almost a decade. I give them new seats every day, whether that's a different formation, a horseshoe, circle, rows, quads, 4s, 2s, pairs, because I want them to meet and learn something new about their classmate every day. And that's my goal too, to learn something new about a student, whether it's how to properly say their name, their last name, learn something about one of the things they enjoy outside of school. So while yes, I do understand the point of a seating chart, if the classroom is a little wild and certain personalities can't be together after a lot of redirection and refocus and checking in, then yeah, I'll go to a seating chart. What you're seeing me do again is just move the chairs and the configuration in the 4s, because they'll be working in groups. They're doing their own individual budget unless they're roommates or potential roommates. Other things I think about, body movement. So how are students in their chairs, out of their chairs? Now, does that mean I have bodies roaming around 24/7? No, but I try to make sure at least a couple times a week they're up moving. We'll do what I call a word party, and they'll get up with vocab words and go find a connection between them and another person, or they'll find someone who is the opposite of their vocab word. Just little things to keep them moving, right? Other things I think about is what's the exit ticket? And this isn't new. This isn't a new teaching practice, but I think about what are ways that they exit the classroom, whether that's to show me what they've learned, or what I like to do, what I've been doing all summer is I'll say, meet me at a door with a friend who X, Y, and Z. So they'll come to the door and they'll sing a song they know together, or they'll come to the door with someone who lives close to them in the neighborhood, or they'll come to the door with somebody who has the same music taste or favorite food. So it forces them to kind of find new people. And if I see that they're bringing the same people, I'll say, you can't bring this person, you got to bring a new person. All these little ways to kind of get them up and talking. I think one of the staples of my classroom is just voices and verbalization and communication, right? I felt like when I was a student, I didn't have much voice, and so I turned to my writing, and now you see me as a writer. So I try to make sure there's space, a lot more space for student voice and student choice. Not to say the teacher voice is not important, but I try to make sure that they're working harder than I am and that they're really talking, because I think in those discussions and dialogues, kids get to work through a lot of their questions and curiosities, more so than me giving them a direct answer, right? I like to just come and ask questions and be really Socratic and just planting the seeds, and then also encouraging them to create their own questions. And so I think dialogue gets them to work on communication skills such as active listening, as well as just making follow-up questions, as well as just troubleshooting, or just being able to look someone in the eye and express something that's really difficult, or express some vulnerability around them not knowing something. So it's all these little bitty personal skills I try to create as much time and space for, to maximize their interactions, to maximize their learning, as opposed to putting the spotlight on me as a teacher. So anyway, that's a little insight into my classroom. You just seen a little bit of me planning for my middle school Words Win, aka vocabulary class during the summer. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I'm D. White, founder of justblackthoughts.com. That's my blog where I blog about my experience as a black male educator. Also, you can follow me on YouTube at The Other English Teacher on YouTube and Instagram. You know, if you just want to hear from a teacher, or if you have some thoughts, questions, holla at me, all right? I'm always open to ears. I see this blog and my content creation as an extension of my classroom. Take care. Peace. Hey, it's D. White, founder of justblackthoughts.com. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe on YouTube. Follow me at The Other English Teacher on Instagram and YouTube.